I haven't gotten the notification on Zoom yet, but I've clicked the go live button and I'm seeing the YouTube start to work itself up. So I'm going to go ahead and say, welcome back, everyone, for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I am your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'm going to pass it over first, as I typically do, to Spartan Grown.
Thank you, Jack. I am Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word, no spaces. And if you don't do the social media, you could shoot me a email, spartangrown@gmail.com, and I can help you with all your lighting or growing questions.
Just clicking on over to the live chat or view all messages. Looks like we have Marcus Green Thumb, a regular in the chat, as well as Resurrection Farms and many other Resurrection Farmer. I think that's Resurrection Prophet. Shout out to him. He's got a we were talking a little bit about berry farming before we got on. He's a canna and berry farmer. So shout out to him and all the good people up in Michigan. But I also want to shout out my homie Noah the Grower, who's our other panelist who's joined me this evening.
Hello, everybody. I'm Noah the Grow on Instagram. You can find me there, and happy to be here. I've been doing a bunch of non-cannabis growing, but of course, my cannabis garden is rocking and rolling, and I'll go out there around 5:30.
Well, speaking of cannabis growing, I think we got a little bit of a misinterpretation based on one of the comments that I received on the last video. And I want to start off with a little bit of an apology because there was a question asked about seed banks and access to seeds. And I think that the interpretation was we were laughing at the question or at the small grower or the home grower. I was really laughing at the government and the ability for them to deny access to people like myself or businesses in the US or abroad that will continue to ship seeds regardless of whatever the laws say. So, to that person, if you felt like we were laughing at the little guy or the small grower, that was not the intention at all. It was more, we've seen this industry go from completely unregulated and banned and restricted to being more and more open. And so it's at times I think humorous to us to think that it'll ever go back to a place of being completely restricted and shut off, even if they try with government overreach and regulations like they've done in the past. Because we saw from the 30s when it first became illegal in modern times, 1930s to now, over the last like 100 years or so, prohibition has absolutely failed. Whether it was alcohol or cannabis or uh, you know pharmaceutical medications that are supposed to only be sold by doctors and uh, prescriptions at your pharmacies and things like that. That's not the case. People can go and buy any of that shit on the street today if they want to. So, unfortunate reality is regulations don't always, well, in this case, always seem to fail. Unless you're in like, and I think even this is the case in like communist China where they have like complete totalitarian control. People are still smoking a little weed here and there, or using pills here and there, or using this here and there. They might get killed for it or jailed for life for it, which fucking sucks. But that doesn't mean that we're like opposed to the small people getting access to it. So I just wanted to clarify that and apologize to that person because they seem to take it as like a us against them and like we are against seed banks or other sized if they were like a corporate cannabis person or something like that. And although I prefer my cannabis to be smaller in craft, I'm not going to say that I think all corporate cannabis should go away by any means. I'm not taking that opinion. So to that person, I even talked about in that very episode, we're never going to please everybody, so don't try to. But in this case, I think there was genuinely misinterpretation and miscommunication. I don't want them to feel like we're punching down at the little guy because we are the little guy. I don't have any sponsors. I don't have any fucking funding for the show. That's just me and my almost 10-year-old laptop and you know, refurbished microphone that I just unplugged from my headphones. So I can't hear myself, but y'all can still hear me. But that works out. And I just kept on jibba jabbing. But all that being said, yeah, sorry to that person. And I also want to shout out and say sorry to the 2,500 or so people of Junction, Texas, because when I spoke about Junction, Texas, when I was listening back, I was like, man, that was kind of negative. I was really only going through Junction, Texas for like 12 hours on a 7-day road trip across America. So I didn't really see Junction, Texas. I saw the Denny's and motel in Junction, Texas. So I got a very bad perspective of it. When I Googled it, when I was listening to it, I was like, man, I was like kind of dumping on Junction, Texas. And although it has a small population, if you're one of those 2,500 people, I do apologize if I offend you. It looks like a beautiful place. I Googled it and there's like rivers and nature and like great hunting. And it seems like an awesome place. So I spoke too soon on Junction, Texas. And if anybody there was offended by my comments, I apologize for that. So starting off the show with some apologies and just general updates. But I think the other person that was maybe like accused or called out in the laughing thing was Spartan Grown. So I don't know if you wanted to say anything about the whole seat thing, but I think you were coming from the same place. And somebody else in the comments even said like, "Hey, I don't think you were interpreting what they were laughing at correctly necessarily. Like we're laughing at something different, but sometimes when you ask a question, if there's any laughter, it can be interpreted as maybe they're making fun of me or poking fun at my genuine question.
Yeah, no, yeah, if I recall, which I believe I do, yeah, I was laughing at the notion that the government passing a law saying that seeds were illegal were going it makes it magic that the seeds just all disappear and they wouldn't be able to be found anymore. That's all. Because, like you said and mentioned, I was around in the times before it was legal at all, and it was still around, seeds included. And here we are today still with it still around. So it was that notion. It was the notion that anything that the government does is going to ultimately affect it or not. I mean, it'll affect it in a way for sure, but they'll never be able to take it completely away. I don't think that's ever going to happen. And I believe I did say, I think I might have said something to the effect of the genie in the bottle. You can't get the genie back in the bottle or something like that. But
You did, and I think that it was
yeah.
pretty clear if you listen to the whole thing. Maybe they tuned out as soon as they felt like their question was being laughed at, not the. I, I understand because everybody interprets things differently. One person, like the game of telephone, you could whisper something in one person's ear and then it goes around to 10 different people. By the time it gets to the end of the circle, you have a completely different message. Or even just one person, a teacher, standing in front of a room, says one sentence that could be seemingly on its face, like, the American one just joined this Zoom call, so I'm going to introduce him. That could be interpreted, I know, as simple as that sounds, differently by different people, but I want to take a second to welcome in the American one who joined us, and I forgot to click the accept button because I normally have a little thing that has a sound when people join, and I forgot to turn that on. So sorry, Tal, for making you wait, and welcome in.
No, no worries, Jack. Hello, Jack, panel, everyone in chat. I'm the American one on the YouTube and the American one underscore with E Keens on with underscore E Keens on the IG. Yeah, I'm glad I made it tonight. Good to see everybody.
Good to see you. And I think it might be a good time just to transition into maybe the main topic of the evening slash first topic, I should say. We'll probably go into a bunch of different stuff, but somebody commented correctly that with medical marijuana being Schedule 3, as it has, um, leaves recreational use as Schedule 1. Federal Registry for Dispensaries is a blue book for shopping cart, True Leave buy up, recreational dispensaries, etc. So the main part of that I was thinking about is the fact that Schedule 3 means that basically like research and stuff can be done, but yeah, casual use by most users is going to still fall under that Schedule 1 and not have the same protections. So it doesn't, I don't think it's a cure-all by any means, but I do think that it's a positive step in the right direction because now more and more research establishments, which are almost exclusively college institutions here in the US that are doing this type of research, are actually willing to do so now, or will be as soon as the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, etc. But it's going to be not like a maybe if you do this, you're going to lose your funding from other sources, or you might lose your licensing, or this or that. It's going to be more in the wide open, like Canada, like Israel, like all these other countries that have started doing cannabis research at scale, at higher qualities. That's not just like how to smell cannabis through a bag so drug dogs can identify it and bust more people for using it, or why cannabis is bad and whatever it is. Like all these different negative stigmas and stereotypes and ways to criminalize it were also being researched for many years while it was during Prohibition. But as more places become legal or medical access is granted, more research is being done, and it's kind of sad that we've lagged this long, to be honest. But I will take moves in the positive direction over stagnation or moves in the negative direction, which do happen. We backslide at times. I think sometimes even certain legalizations are backslides, but in this case, I think generally we're going to have some positive benefits to allow research to be done, and I think that for the day-to-day user, a lot might not change very much, but it'll be cool to have some more insight and information coming from research institutions.
I think there's going to be a lot of things that people don't realize or aren't thinking about right now, but it's that are going to pop up and we're going to be like, oh, that was a big deal. Oh, that was a big deal. And just one little example that I can think of off the top of my head, and my knowledge isn't current when it comes to the Department of Transportation rules and regulations, but I used to be a union steward for the Teamsters, and I had to keep up on that kind of thing because I represented a lot of truck drivers. And a lot of the way the contracts were written at these different facilities where that they were going to do their DOT inspections and drug inspections. The drug testing was going to be for Schedule 1 drugs. So now cannabis going from 1 to 3, that's huge. That's one thing. That's one less thing that would be tested for, if that is still current, for all those people that have those contracts. So they could, if they were to be pulled over or for any reason had to submit to a drug test, and the only thing that they tested positive for was cannabis, and in their contract it said that they were only going to be tested for Schedule 1 drugs, then cannabis is not a Schedule 1 drug and they're not in violation of their contract. So it could be some really huge, huge things for some people. And just think of that. Like if that stands to where they don't test for cannabis in driving, which I would be surprised if they don't. They would have to change the contract and just say and cannabis or whatever. But if they don't, how awesome is that to be able to have a choice for medicine out there that's not as like narcotic as some of the things like an opiate or something like that. Um, I don't know. It could open up a lot of, and there's so many things like the laws with children, right? So many people don't want to home grow because they don't want to risk, they'll take my kids away or whatever. And now when you change something from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, all of those, some of those fears come down because a lot of the penalties go way down in severity. So, even though Schedule 1 to 3 wasn't the best end game, I don't think, obviously, it's still a step in the right direction, and I think it's going to have a lot of these consequences that people don't realize yet that I think we might all enjoy.
I agree, and I hope that generally that's going to be the case. Although I know in certain private businesses, the Cleveland Clinic, for example, I'm from Ohio, and I knew people that would try to go and work there, and they drug tested for tobacco. And you'd say, "What? Drug testing for tobacco? Like, how is that possible? Tobacco's legal. Anybody who's adult can use it." And they're like, "We don't want to hire smokers. We're a hospital. It takes time. It's a dirty habit, et cetera, et cetera." And so they've long-standingly had a tobacco ban, and that's chewed tobacco, smoked tobacco, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's in your system; they're not going to hire you. And that could be the case with like DOT could add it as a federal thing, but I think generally it'll be like maybe UPS will also test for cannabis or whatever, but maybe the USPS doesn't because like if a guy takes a little cannabis to go to sleep at night and he shows up the next morning and he's, chipper and focused and not uh, getting in any issues, the problem becomes when it's not even their fault and they end up getting tested. So if you're in an accident, no matter what, in a lot of these jobs, union jobs, whatever, big corporate businesses, if you get into a car accident, forklift accident, whatever, no matter whose fault it is, they test their employee just as a state of course, just to if they were high or something,
Yes.
then they're going to blame it on that, and then they're going to dissuade you of all the insurances that they had covering you, and they're going to put it all on you, and they're not going to give you the same, leeway that they would if you know that's why like it doesn't even need to be something that they messed up. Like somebody could just run a red light and rear end them and
I'll tell you what,
then they get drug tested.
eventually, when it comes to cannabis, I think eventually it'll be a liability to test for cannabis unless it's something where, after an accident or something like that, I could see where you'd want, as a company to test for it. Because I can give you an example directly. When I worked at the bakery in the union there and actually was on the negotiating team for the contract, I had the CEO of the company for the bakery actually say that he had at one point he had like can't remember what he said. He said a stack. He said I had a stack of resumes on his desk, and out of I think it was under 50. It was like somewhere in the neighborhood. We'll say 40 just to be safe. 40 resumes. Two passed for cannabis. The other 38 did not pass. So imagine that like paying for cannabis tests that in a situation to where it's not illegal. They're not breaking the law. So you're paying for every one of those tests just to fail to find someone who didn't. And that's going to get costly eventually. And just the cost of it is going to eventually get people to be like, you know what? Why am I paying for this? For what reason?
Especially if there's employees or like in my case business owners who just show up every day on time and do a good job, whether they're using cannabis the night before, whether they're using it the morning of. I don't actively do it on the job with my clients, but you know there are times where the lingering effects of what I used before work are going to be there. But in my situation, I do think it might actually make me a better employee. And none of my clients ever have complained about my,
Yeah.
status or showing up timely or doing a quality job. So I think
Well,
it really
unless they
comes
can
down
come
person
up
to
with a
person.
different test, because really a cannabis test is silly. It'd be like an alcohol test that said, you know, me
Have you
going
drank in the
taking a
last
cannabis
month?
test is like, did you have a drink in the past month? It's like they don't
Yep,
care. They just want somebody to come and work, show up every day.
exactly. And at some point, like the larger the companies get, the corporate liabilities come in, and I understand why they want to have their butts covered. And if there are accidents and people harm others, then they don't want to be responsible for it, especially if they're intoxicated and not, you know, and some people can get so intoxicated on cannabis that they can't function operating motor vehicles or machinery or whatever, or just getting around the house. But I want to take a second to welcome in a guy who functions very well using cannabis or not, Brandon Rust. Looks like the mute button is not functioning as well as Brandon does in the workplace.
My bad. Yeah, I mean, I function pretty well. Uh, I don't really have any issues. But yeah, if you guys don't know who I am, I'm Brandon Rust, owner of Full Crop Science. Make sure you guys go to the website and get some microbes to protect your garden this season.
Good to have you back,
That's
Brandon. I
it.
want to give a chance to Noah the Grower to give his thoughts because tonight we're talking about Schedule 3. What do you think about the upcoming changes that seem like they're pretty rock solid and maybe some of it's even already underway?
It's interesting. You know, it depends on. I, I mean, I initially would say that it looks like it's a lot of more beneficial to the businesses and taxes, which necessarily isn't a bad thing. But from my perspective as a home grower, it's a little bit flat, I would think. But I mean, it just depends. You know what I mean? Like you guys just talking about the jobs thing. That's interesting. So I don't have to worry about that, but it's interesting. I sent you a video, Jack, directly. I can't remember, maybe my one of my Instagram account, but yeah, about a thing going on in Florida and how there was some stuff tied into it and some political stuff, and it looked like it was all kind of like benefiting like specific people, and so I'm always a little suspicious. You know what I mean when I see stuff like that, like we here in Washington State, they pretty much we used to have liquor stores and now we don't. And it's like basically being sold in like the stores here in liquor. I'm just talking about from a liquor perspective, and the taxes raised big time when they did that. It put a lot of businesses out. They're like, oh, liquor stores can be fine. No, we have like Total Wine, but like almost all the liquor stores went out of business. So I just kind of look at it from like a tax perspective. It's kind of new, and I'm still digging into it. And if I ever see any information, I always send it to you. And you know me, I'm out there in the streets looking for all that kind of stuff. I am into all these legal genre type deals, and I'm fascinated by it.
I really appreciate that video he sent me. Was about the CEO of Curaleaf in Florida and some of the kind of cronyism and alleged things that are happening, and maybe not so alleged because her husband was charged for briberies and fraud and things like that, if I'm remembering correctly. But several different charges. He actually is doing a couple years in jail related to the legal cannabis market, and they tight licensing, only a small number of licenses there, and a lot of kind of fishy stuff was written into the laws to basically close other people out from opportunities which were already limited and extremely expensive and highly competitive. So exactly kind of what we don't want to see when it comes to opening up an industry towards people like ourselves having opportunities. We would like to see more of like the mom and pop, small farm or even home garden situation where everybody can just do it and it doesn't have to be a totally overly regulated industry. I think one of the things that came up when you were talking that I thought of that I hadn't mentioned earlier was the research I think might eventually, as we've seen, the cultivation research is not the best yet, but as they get better and better, and hopefully have people like Brandon or uh, any of the guys on this panel to, guide them into growing better looking plants than we're seeing in a lot of the research articles. Once they start growing good stuff, maybe they'll start to identify like, hey, this strain is really good for arthritis. Hey, this strain is really good for epilepsy or these different things. Like we saw a big wave with CBD being pushed around the Charlotte's Web And a lot of other people found just general CBD to be helpful, and some people found it helped them, and some found that it didn't help them. And that was kind of a lot of controversy behind any of these things being used for large medical ailments. And you know, claims are when they're pretty broad can attract a lot of scrutiny, especially if like people use it for their kid and it doesn't work. And I understand that. So I don't think that's a cure all, but I am excited to see more potentials get explored and locked down, and maybe they'll figure out why Charlotte's Web stopped seizures so well for Charlotte Figge, but not for one of my a guy I used to volunteer with and his son, and why it didn't work for a lot of people that maybe had to move to Colorado back when CBD wasn't legal federally, before the hemp farm bill and stuff like that. People were literally uprooting their entire family to go live in Colorado or California or somewhere where they could get CBD or grow their own at home. And they weren't even growing THC, they were growing CBD to try and help with seizures and stuff like that. So I'm optimistic that in time we'll get more research and better research. And there are good people at these institutions, universities, hospitals. A lot of these doctors, they've wanted to use cannabis for a long time. They're bound by the Hippocratic oaths and they can't. So many of them, or at least feel like they can't. I've seen doctors that talked about using it 20 years ago. Sanjay Gupta just had another good, I felt like a good representation of cannabis. It was talking about pregnant women using cannabis and using cannabis during pregnancy. And one of the doctors that mentioned recommending that was saying how a woman 20 years ago was the first time she recommended it, was considering terminating the pregnancy because she was throwing up to such a level that it was like blood, vomit. She was almost going to die, to the level of the pregnancy was killing her. So she was going to terminate the pregnancy because she needed to protect her own life. Otherwise, both of them would be gone. And the doctor recommended using cannabis during the pregnancy. And both the mother and the child lived. And now, 20 years later, that child's in college and just got accepted to like a pretty high school, if I'm remembering the story correctly. And like they showed some of these individuals. And he was smart to keep saying like, "Oh, this is anecdotal," and like, but it was like story after story after story was having like positive result, and then like the people that were anti would come on and they'd be like, "Yeah, but it creates underweight babies and it creates these types of birth defects," but then like they wouldn't give any research. There'd be no data to be like this 2023 study says that 57% of babies that had cannabis in the mother's blood were underweight. It was never like that. It was just like them generally pulling stuff like, well, I think and I've heard type situation. So I think it was nice to see from the mainstream that stuff getting pushed. And I think we'll start to see. But let's see if women are using it during pregnancy. I remember quoting a while back, Jamaica, women used it for morning sickness. And the women in America that were in the side-by-side study that I saw, the morning sickness medication that was given to the women in America was causing birth defects, like really gnarly, like missing a hand, missing eyes, missing feet, paralyzed babies, stillbirths, horrible side effects from these medications. And the women that use cannabis, their kids were born pretty healthy and had very little side effects, if any. And so I was like, man, this is pretty convincing to me that as much as I thought my whole entire life intuitively, like, I don't think that women should drink or smoke or do anything during pregnancy, like protect that baby, keep it as healthy as possible. But we have an endocannabinoid system. Should it be stimulated? How should it be stimulated? What cannabinoids should we stimulate? That needs to be looked at. And I asked on Twitter, I'll have to go back, or X, what do you guys want to see with Schedule 3? What's the first study that should be done for cultivation, for medical purposes, et cetera? And I'm curious how. I know you've been around the plant, growing it, using it, and sharing it with others, and seeing your own and others' experiences for many, many years. So when it comes to Schedule 3, is there anything you're excited to talk about with the changes? Any research you'd like to see, or anything on that front?
Yeah, I'm very suspect about anything the government does. Um, and I pretty much concerning cannabis, I've been following any of the laws that have been produced by the government. But I think it could be definitely beneficial, hopefully, for people with medical issues that they're going to find a lot of different unknown, activity that could help a lot of people with a lot of different things. Now, whether or not, like, yeah, someone has to make money off of it for it to actually, like, why they didn't let other possible prophylactics for COVID get to the people. It's because there was no money in it for them. So hopefully they'll figure it out and be able to help humanity instead of like only half help because they want to make more money. But I didn't really read any of it, or like I don't even know the implications of what's going to happen now that it's rescheduled. Um, but it would be good if the people wouldn't get their children taken away if they cultivate it. That's the other thing. I think if they should just let us cultivate it and do that descheduling and let the pharmacy and the big pharma companies try and do some stuff with it. But yeah,
One
I
big
don't know.
thing about Schedule 3 too that we haven't talked about yet is with it being moved to Schedule 3, it's the government admitting that it has a pharmaceutical value. And with that, it brings export. You will would be able to now export if you jump through, which companies will. If you jump through all the hoops to get the pharmaceutical grade, you'll be able to export things to other countries. So that's another huge market that's kind of untapped at a lot. I imagine there's going to be a lot of running and moving, uh, probably by the MSOs, to try to get at least a division to produce pharmaceutical grades so that they can export outside of the country.
We saw it with Canada. I mean, a bunch of it was going to Germany in the early days of their legalized markets. A bunch of it wasn't staying there. And I think when, funny enough, like when you hear pharmaceutical grade, in your mind, you might think that's like really high quality shit. Because in certain cases it is. Like if it was pharmaceutical grade cocaine, which does exist, um, it's going to be very pure. Any substance that's pharmaceutical grade is genuinely pretty pure. When it comes to cannabis, I think unless you're getting pharmaceutical grade THCA or THC or CBD or CBN or an isolate, pharmaceutical grade will probably actually mean whatever, like Spartan is saying, MSO or large corporation pays for. It's like organic. Who's going to pay for that license so that they can then sell it to another market or sell it at a higher price at some market? And I think in this case, it's another market. It's like going to be like all the shit that they didn't sell into their domestic market. They're going to take that, batch it out to a, another company that has the pharmaceutical grade licensing and packaging and facility standards. And it's just going to be midsy mids that it gets pumped over to be sold
Still,
off
it's a
in
lifeline to
some
all
other
these
market.
companies. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah,
lifeline because, you can get rid of your
it's
meds.
options. And there's so many countries, 100, what, 90 countries or something out there. So it's not just one now. And granted, the US is, I believe, still to this day, the largest consumer market for basically everything. But um, when it comes to, comparing us to every single other market, there's just a lot of opportunity to be had, going to other markets. It can be difficult from shipping, logistics, etc. But once you figure it out, like I don't know, a lot of people probably don't know too much about this company, but DHL is like a shipping company and they focused on international and just started fucking smashing it internationally because all the international shipping was so expensive. And they still exist and they still operate and they do a good business today. And I think that it's just a sign that there's opportunity in the international space. And with the Schedule 3 opening up, I'm curious. I know Brandon is a businessman himself and has worked all over the country, probably internationally. I know you've been to Spanibus. That's where you and Spartan met, funny enough. Being two American guys meeting in Spain. That's just another example of how international cannabis can be right there. But Brandon, what are your thoughts on Schedule 3? Any research you're excited for, or what do you think about the general changes coming up?
My general thought is whenever the government gets involved in anything, it's going to be one, a shit show. Any fucking process to get anything done is going to be fucking painstakingly uh, long and inefficient. And in the end run, in the long run, Big Brother usually wins and the people get fucked.
So that's a good general summary, but um, we have found ways to navigate regulations, and I think that in part, sometimes these regulations do offer protections. In the case of cannabis, there was never testing before. I mean, in very, very small scales in medical markets, there was some testing that I personally saw being done. You all can write to me and DM me and tell me about your experiences with the testing pre-legalization or medical markets. But to me, it was very limited, if not at
I will.
all. And I'm not talking about your own product, but I'm talking about like if you were to go out there and buy something from somebody off the street, general people, a lot of the people that I knew and around the world, you guys can, like I said, give me feedback in the comments right now. But testing when it's not required is often not done because it's an expense, right? people trying to keep the prices low. And I saw it as a differentiator before, like you're talking about, Brandon, you tested your own product. People that could supply terpene tests, it was like educational to the consumer. I didn't even know what a terpene was till I saw a terpene test. So what the hell is limonene? I probably mispronounced it. Limonene, I don't know. It smells like lemon. Well, there you go, citrus or something. And then you slowly start to learn, oh, I like that. Linalool, limonene, fucking pinene. Ooh, pinene. Pinene there again. I like pinene in this one and that one. But so testing had benefit, but when it's not required, I think it's done. And not just you, take yourself out of the equation. Look around at the thousands of growers. How many were testing? One, 10, a dozen out of the thousands? Like there wasn't hundreds or thousands of people testing. Some people didn't even have access to testing. A lot of us, like when I was in Cleveland, we didn't have labs to send it to. In California, it's been medical since 1996, so there was labs that existed, but I was in Cleveland and they just got it recently. Shout out to Cleveland. Fucking Cleveland School of Cannabis is apparently using 50 strains of green. Probably already mentioned this on the show for part of their curriculum. So that's a fun little tidbit. My hometown, original town. But yeah, the
Yeah,
testing thing, I wish we had access. I would love to have known what I was
Awesome.
smoking on back then.
you know what else I'm a little I think is going to happen? They're going to do all these different ways they make the cannabinoids. Like they genetically modified yeast so that when they put it in a vat and feed it certain things, it'll pump out cannabinoid, but cannabis.
Cannabinoids.
Yeah, so I could see that like just the stuff that they're going to end up having in pharmaceutical might not even come from the cannabis plant, which I think would be like just crazy. So
I think we
yeah,
talked about this way back when Doc used to come on the show, and he was saying even when they've tried to do that for other stuff, field grown crops, when they're not overregulated, like when you're comparing hemp versus like high THC cannabis, you can grow hemp at such a scale. You can grow CBD for such a cost that it's more economically viable, from what I understand right now, to just grow CBD in farms by the acre than it is to set up a facility that can grow pure CBD in a vat with the yeast or whatever that's genetically modified. Because we already have a lot of these systems where the nutrients exist, the farm equipment exists, the pesticides exist. All of these things are already there for corn, soy, canola, everything. So they can be adapted and used in a lot of cases just as they exist for cannabis, aka hemp, especially if it's not going to be smoked for pleasure. It's just going to be extracted in a lab and turned into a powder that's so far isolated from everything. It won't really matter if they sprayed pesticides on it or not, because it won't test for it. It'll be 99.99999% pure laboratory grade.
I think the biggest block or whatever in that whole system is harvesting because we got rid of a lot of our back when we used to grow hemp, we used to have harvesters that were hardened and they could get through it, but the hemp is so hard to wear down today's equipment, and there's very few processing. There's a lot of people growing hemp, but there are very few processing facilities. So we need like the infrastructure still to just like process all of the hemp and harvest it still.
I wish I remembered the guy's name, but there was a dude in Oregon who was doing that. He'd be like, "Did you grow a bunch of hemp and don't have any way to process it?" And he had like combines that would come through and harvest and bale it, and it was just all ready. Like he had it figured out, and he was doing it for dozens of farms. And I showed it a couple times on the show. I'd pull up their Instagram and like screen share or whatever. And but like you're saying, it's sort of like a picks and shovels kind of thing with the gold rushes and the silver rushes from California. Levi Strauss like made a bunch of money, you know, selling picks, shovels, and jeans, mainly denim eventually. But a lot of the people that were selling like the axes and the shovels and the equipment for gold mining and the pans were making more money than the people actually panning for it. So I think more people should be getting on using those combines and things that they can mechanically harvest because hemp, and I've seen it done, like it can be harvested at scale with a harvester combine. It basically looks like a spinning wheel of death that I would never want to get in front of, but it's got these like rakes down at the bottom and it has these like spinning things that basically cut it from the stalk and like pull it all in and just yeah, it just fascinates me how quickly it can be done. But at the same time, like um, there are people that are doing like small craft hemp operations that sell hemp flour and make like salves and stuff by hand, and that's like a part of their farm. They also grow rosemary and tomatoes and other things like that. But I think that economies of scale make it really difficult for the small farmer. The more research I'm doing for even just general farming, I know we were talking before the show, Noah was talking about his strawberries. Maybe you could get in that a little bit to get off the schedule three here for a bit. But any farming, it can be difficult to be profitable year after year, crop after crop, season after season. Cannabis, strawberries, whatever it is, corn even, just because the competition is high. There's certain things like subsidies and other outside influences, imports, exports, tariffs in certain circumstances and things like that that will um, impact prices of what you're growing that you might plan it thinking it's going to be one thing, and then you end up getting something different year after year because stuff that's totally outside of your control. Even if you are the most actively engaged voter and educate yourself on all the policies and try to make sure that you get the best ones, sometimes it just the chips don't fall in your favor. So yeah, I don't know. I think we can have this idea, and there's a guy called Farming While Beige. He has got a really bunch of interesting videos about dispelling maybe some of the myths of these like the dream of quit your job and start a small farm kind of thing. Because a lot of people, I think, try and fail because the people that are selling those dreams are succeeding on maybe selling the dream or were born into a farm where they already had everything set up for them. And while they speak against getting loans or something like that, will go and get a loan to expand their farm. Well, it's like, I never like when somebody's saying one thing and then doing another. That's like inconsistent to me. So when you find out about people doing that, as much as they might seem like, oh, this guy's like on our team, like he's supporting farming and he's a champion for farming, he's trying to get more people doing it. And while I want more people to do it too, I want them to go in kind of like more wide-eyed and understanding that like it ain't easy. There's a big reason a lot of us moved away from it. Our families moved away from it and have switched to more city or suburban jobs and things like that because it's very difficult, and it's also not necessarily a guarantee to make tons and tons of money. But with that being said, I think what is much more of a guarantee, a win, is growing stuff at home, whether it's cannabis or food. And in Noah's case, you and Spartan were talking a little bit about strawberries before the show, and I wanted to let you kind of share your. I think you were having a little bit of struggles with it, and maybe talking about changing up the strains or the varieties to better suit your area or something like that.
Yeah, I just been having a problem getting some of these that I bought originally when I first started getting them to bear strawberries, but I often wonder if it's also the squirrels. But a little side note, a really cool plant that I had gotten a couple years ago is a this really cool Japanese toad lily plant that I got. It's so beautiful, and bought it, and it's been like going bigger and bigger and bigger. And yesterday we have two of them, and yesterday we with my granddaughter we just broke it all down to little ones. We're gonna see if we can't get it, and then I bought a really cool azalea. I bought a couple of really cool Panonis, one for my wife, one for my son's mom, and just been doing a lot of different gardening stuff. Just kind of, cannabis kind of sometimes can almost start it. I have this really cool like heirloom from like the early 1900s raspberry plant that got brought over from the former owner of my house. Thrown this raspberry plant. They're like really nice, really fun. He actually came over to my house like a couple years ago and asked me to dig some up because he was moving over east, and like these are like a really rare like raspberry. So yeah, cannabis can kind of I'm out in my yard right now. I'm looking. I got some dahlias. I got a bunch of crazy stuff that I've just been starting. I've been just, you just try to grow thing, it's a lot of fun growing stuff.
I love it, dude. I hear the birds chirping in the background. It sounds like you're in sort of like the yellow skunk farm, but outdoors. Like most people have their gardens where it's not inside of a room, but you've got it, right in your backyard or front yard or wherever it is. So cheers to you, Noah, for sharing about your garden. And I'm curious, Spartan, if you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, as we were talking, I thought of another tip too. I know I told you how to like acidify your soil, but another good tip is I got this from an old farmer. Used to be famous on the TV back when TV was a thing, and his name was Jerry Baker, and he had all these household tips like you use coffee grounds or use this, and I love that shit. So for strawberries, if you have animals taking your strawberries, and this works, I've done it works against the birds anyway. Just go find, bring a bucket with you or something next time you go walking and get you, a couple handfuls of rocks that are the same size as a strawberry. And then you get your kids out there or your grandkids out there and just paint the rocks red, strawberry red. And put them out, sprinkle them out around the plants on the ground about a week, 2 weeks, when they still have flowers, when they still have the flowers, that's the time to put them out there. And then the birds and the whatever are going to go out there and get to used to say, oh, that red over there is just a stupid rock. I'm not going to mess with it. So then when the flowers turn into your berries, boom, you're good. You can go harvest them.
That's awesome.
That's a great tip. I haven't actually heard that, but I will say birds, squirrels, small animals are way smarter than we give them credit for. So if you do something like that, like a higher level, you're actually putting some thought into it, technique. Crows will remember shit from multiple generations. So if you're mean to them, like this one researcher was, they'll be mean to you for like the next 30 or 40 years because they're going to teach their kids to fucking hate you because they remember what you look like. And if they can remember what you look like, they can remember, oh, that's the house with the red rocks that look like berries. I went all the way over there just to bite into it to find, oh, that was a fucking hard rock. I fucked my tooth up. I'm not going back over there. And even people with brain injuries, one of the interesting things in psychology, one of the experiments they did, people with like really severe brain injuries that couldn't remember anything, they would have like a square, a circle, and a triangle. And the triangle would zap the fuck out of them, like high voltage, shock the fuck out of them. And they'd be like, all right, touch the square, nothing. Touch the circle, nothing. Touch the triangle, zaps the shit out of them, like, ah, fuck. And then they'd wait until like whatever that person's time frame was where they forgot. And they would ask them, all right, touch the square, touch the circle, touch the triangle. And they'd touch the square, touch the circle. And then they'd go to touch the triangle and they'd like wince a little bit. And they'd be like, why'd you stop? They'd be like, I don't know. I just really don't want to touch that. And they couldn't consciously say why they didn't want to touch it, but they fucking knew. So even like extremely mentally injured individuals with like severe brain injuries are able to remember consequences to pain. So a squirrel biting into a rock or a bird diving down thinking, oh, I'm going to get a nice little bit of food and then pecking into it with their beak, they're going to be like, oh, fuck, that strawberry is not a strawberry, even though that looked like a strawberry plant. That looked like a strawberry. I just got a fucking headache now and a chipped beak. It's like, I'm not going the fuck back there ever. Like that guy's place is off. Hopefully, I hope that that is the case because I like to believe that they are that intelligent. And it sounds like this comes from somebody who was given good advice back then. I think the coffee ground advice is also good advice for basically nitrogen, or a lot of people just throw it away. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome, Spartan. Thank you.
pick them up in the fall though, because otherwise they'll get buried in the leaves and everything else, and you'll just have to find more rocks.
Another crafting activity with your kids, never too horrible, right? You still get a little time spent with them and get something done. That's, from IPM perspective, that's actually one that goes a little bit like, beyond what I've heard in the past because there's so many different you can spray this, you can use beneficial insects. I was going to say for birds, they have like the little they're kind of fun looking. I don't love that they're like plastic or mylar, but you can reuse them year after year, hopefully. The little some of them are probably metal even. You stick them into the ground and they spin around and it looks like a little windmill and they are kind of like a flashy color or some of them have like streamers. I've also seen like at pools they hang these wires above the pool so that the birds don't come and shit all over the people. But the wires vibrate with just a little bit of wind at like such a high frequency. We don't hear it, but it fucks with the birds and they also don't like landing on them or whatever it is. So they avoid your area. So that would be something to maybe look into because it's just real thin little wire string and it seems to work. I've seen it at some fancy ass places and there's birds everywhere else, but they won't come over by the pool where there's that just little almost like an X across the top of the pool and you can barely even see it unless you look really close and gets the job done. So there's lots of options. It's funny because I've seen that work better than like they have these almost like spikes all over the it seems like the birds like land right on top of them. They just don't give a fuck. Like the really jagged kind of edged spikes on roofs. The birds just are like, fuck you guys. I'm still gonna land on there and shit all over people. There's also I see like people have these electronic owls that like
Yep.
do like a high pitch owl chirp almost sound. Like maybe when there's motion, they're usually like solar powered or battery powered, but it looks like a real owl and it just makes this screeching pitched sound that I think will scare off. I'd imagine rodents
Well,
and smaller birds.
I think there's still a benefit for birds to be around your yard. They eat a lot of fucking bugs and they shit a lot on my truck usually. But there is some benefits.
When it hits the grass, it's nitrogen, some of the best
Yeah.
fertilizer. Also other stuff, right? There's like
You also
phosphorus
make
and
fertilizer.
I'm sorry,
You know
Brandon,
what?
you cut out a little. I couldn't really hear it. Could you repeat that?
You know what also makes nitrogen fertilizer?
Worms, worm castings.
Lightning.
That's a good point.
Lightning right out of the sky, man. That's what's awesome about lightning.
Yeah. it has so much energy. It's able to cleave that
Atmospheric nitrogen.
nitrogen bond, and if in the presence of hydrogen, it can precipitate into ammonia. Not large quantities. It's not like massive quantities are being made, but have you ever noticed like
That's why
you
it's so
really do
green
see
after a
a
storm.
lot
Yeah.
of greening up after a big thunderstorm?
Yeah, does the rain pick up any nitrogen? I mean, there's like 80%,
Yeah.
or no, is it 80% nitrogen in the air? There's quite a bit of nitrogen in the
Uh,
air,
yeah, 78% dinitrogen.
And
right?
rainfall does
So,
contain some of that. So if
okay,
you catch
yeah,
rain or if the rain just hits the plants, there's a reason it brightens everything up
yeah.
really green.
After a rain, well, just because of the watering too, everything looks green and healthy, lush. But yeah, definitely after a lightning storm.
It's like a wombo combo one too, because like the water, I think if the water was just alone or had something else in it, it wouldn't necessarily work as well. But I feel like nature is just set up to work like that, right? It's a beautiful, at least in our uh, planet, we have a beautiful system. We've got these conditions that are sort of self-regulating. Our water cycle, we get enough heat and things like that, it can evaporate back up, rain back down, and cycle
If you
continues.
Well, if you think about it, like if without lightning on this planet, I don't think life would be able to exist because that the combination of nitrogen gas and that energy from lightning is what was I would assume would be the first biologically like or the chemically stable form to create the precursors for all of life, right? Like you need phosphorus, you need uh nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen to make DNA. So, like, the fundamental proteins needed could be produced in a chemical soup.
I think that life existed long before lightning, though, because most of it was underwater, and a lot of it came from like volcanic activity that slowly built up over time. So the history of our planet is really fucking wild and probably deeper than any of our knowledge extend into. But on
Speaking of
the
which, look at the history of cannabis. It just got a whole hell of a lot older, didn't it?
yes, you shared something about that. Did you want to talk about that article that you shared with the
Oh,
group?
I did a dab. I can't remember a goddamn thing about it. I just remember that it's like 58 million or something like that years old
56
now
million year old fossil found in Germany, maybe the oldest known cannabis plant.
in
I will,
Germany. Now, everybody's saying it's coming from China. Now we're saying, hey, maybe it came out of Germany.
and I'd heard like the even further south than China, like
Did
the,
somebody do like a background check, like a fact check, and make sure that it wasn't just like clickbait that someone's like, oh, or something like that?
it
This
could
one,
be.
when I read the article, it said that they said that this wasn't even the first fossil, that there's been many. So I'm surprised I hadn't heard of it before.
Tibetan Plateau. That's actually where I had heard. I was just about to say kind of like more in one of the plateaus or the steppes. I remember.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Personally, I question that they can date anything before recorded history, but that's just me. But like, yeah, finding the fossil where they found it is interesting too, right?
Well, the whole idea is like there was Pangea at one point. All of the land masses were touching, and then they slowly, through tectonic plate shifting, moved apart from one another. And you can see that with how they line up
Did it
with one
say that
another.
did it say it was a relative, or did it say it was fucking weed?
Scientists dropped a bombshell. The oldest known cannabis
Look at it, dude.
fossil
You can
has been
see it right
confirmed.
there.
Natural History Museum in Berlin, a perfectly preserved leaf imprint in Germany's Saxony-Anhalt region, dated to 56 million years ago. The leaf Eocene, it literally doubles the previously accepted timeline for the entire cannabis genus and forces us to rewrite everything we thought we knew about its origins. This isn't some vague pollen grain, it's a full leaf, and it looks almost identical to modern cannabis. And look at it, I mean, it looks like something you'd sketch in high school if you were a stoner. If you're familiar with the actual cannabis leaf, because that is
Well,
a five plus, the two little bottom one. That's a
the
standard
dinosaur
ass cannabis
the
plant
dinosaur
leaf.
missed getting high by 10 million years.
Wasn't born too late apparently, but or too early. But yeah, this is the Tibetan Plateau origin stories we've all heard about the plant thriving long before that. So it's interesting. It is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Very cool.
How did they
Does it
come?
matter?
How did they get to
56
the
million, 26
56
billion. Like, what the
million
fuck's the
years?
difference? We've been doing it forever, right? It's been with us since like the dawn of time or before. It's probably before us. I think there's pretty strong evidence that we haven't been here that long. So it was here before us, just doing its fucking thing. I didn't hear that one, Brandon. Maybe it wasn't meant to be on the show.
Oh, I was talking. I forgot I was not paused. I was talking to the dog.
All good, man. But yeah, it's
So I
just
have a question
go ahead, Tal.
that just in general, like people got to think with their own brains. If humans evolved the way they, the way they say that we did, how the hell do we have receptors for cannabis if we weren't next to the cannabis plant evolving together? Like
We fucking
that.
were. That's why we have them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. But a lot of things about evolution don't make sense to me.
But that
Just
should
in
make sense
general
to you, Tao.
thinking.
That should make perfect sense. There's a plant that's older than us. We come around later than the plant. We find out that this plant has all these amazing benefits. You can eat it. You can use it for medicinal value. You can use it for recreational, fun value. You can use it for spiritual reasons. All these different things that these people throughout the time, especially when they were suffering through miserable as whatever age. And maybe, some people believe that back then there was ancient technologies and they were living and thriving, and that could have been the case. But all that being said, I think that we co-evolved. We came up with it. All the different types of humans that we have fossils to represent. Like there were not just the Homo sapiens. So there were definitely different species of kind of humanoid creatures on the planet. And even like chimpanzees have endocannabinoid systems. Cats have endocannabinoid systems. Like what animal can you guys think of that doesn't have an endocannabinoid system? Because every single one I've interacted with or know of has some sort of, maybe there's some insects or some bugs or birds or something like that that don't have any way of interacting with it. But there's a hell of a lot of animals that do. And a lot of the ones that we came up around, that we domesticated, that we kept with us, donkeys, horses, dogs, cats, even rodents have endocannabinoid systems. So I think it's important for mammals. And that's why I've felt for a long time. I work with special needs people, and I think people that don't have any endocannabinoids in their system at all sometimes suffer. And then when they get it in their system, like with autism, I think CBD is a major benefit. I think that there's an endocannabinoid lack in a lot of people that are on the autism spectrum. They start taking cannabinoids, CBD or THC, their life gets dramatically better for a number of reasons. They sleep better, they can eat better, they can function just generally better across the board. So I think it has a deeper history than we'll probably ever know. But I'm glad we're discovering more of it, just like I'm glad we're researching more of it in modern times.
We just need to be more legal so everyone can grow it and get it back in their diet.
Yeah, I was going to say that makes more sense. Maybe all the animals that we were eating, but like I don't even know like how it all went down. But
Cows used to eat hemp, and they
right,
used to
so
have
that we used
CBD
to get
within their
cannabinoids right through that,
milk
but
and in their meat
before
and
we started
everything.
eating animals, yeah, I guess. But yeah,
Even
and getting
vegans,
drunk too.
you can eat
Like,
seeds, dude. The seeds have a ton of protein.
oh yeah,
Looks like we lost Noah,
I
the
think that's how
grower.
we got. That's how we got stoned the first time, eating the seeds, and it just came with the resin on it.
I heard that it was because, well, at least I know of a story there's in the US, modern history. A hemp farmer was talking about how he was a kid and he worked on his hemp farm in Kentucky. And while they did their big harvest, they, dried it all out, did this and that. And what they called the hemp hurd, which was like the buds and like parts of the flower, it would all get dried up through the processing because they were doing it for the basically
Fiber.
the fiber, and they were making like rope out of theirs. So they grew it super tall, really close together, but there'd still be a nice top apical bud, and they weren't testing for THC. They didn't even know what THC was way back when this homeboy was growing it. And so he said every year after they broke all the fiber, they had these hemp herds that they would just throw into a fire, and everybody got all happy and started singing and eating and feasting and having a good old time. And like it was just like the funniest like how like they accidentally came across it. They had already domestic like they figured it out for all these other uses. And like at least this guy, I'm sure some of the workers in the field knew what was going to happen. This is why they had that big bonfire, right? But he just got secondhand stoned by hanging out with all the other laborers that were breaking the hemp. They had like a handbrake, a physical piece of wood that pushed down, and then they started pulling it through basically like a cotton gin style system and weaving it into fiber. And still to this day, some of the best ropes. It's the reason we were able to sail across the Atlantic Ocean. Without the hemp sails, without the hemp ropes, we would have not been able to do it. They were the best and the strongest at the time. Now we've got better stuff like steel and shit like that that can last or whatever. But back then, without hemp, we were fucked. My family's history, but the village I'm from in Italy, like several generations back, they grew hemp as part of like the commodity that was necessary because for a long, long time. It's been used for so many different reasons. So I find it really fascinating that it does get restricted so often. Again, we're like looking back at these dark histories, but we're living it now in a sense because these restrictions still exist, and it limits ourselves and many other people out there that would like to be involved and be involved at larger scales. And that question that was asked, I understand like coming from a place of wanting to do everything legally, wanting to do everything above board. They don't want to risk maybe their kids or their family or their dog or whatever buying a seed from a website that ships it to them discreetly and it gets there and then they're thinking in the back of their head, am I on a fucking list now? Is my door gonna get kicked down? Am I gonna fucking so I sympathize or empathize and come from the same place because when I was in Ohio and involved in those operations, like people were not only getting arrested but getting killed in some of these fucking operations. And so it's something that we shouldn't have to think about or want to have to think about, but it is a reality in a lot of places, the red states or the no-go states, the anti-cannabis states. I don't want to make it a political affiliation because a lot of times like red is construed as Democrat or Republican, I should say. In modern times, blue is Democrat. But there are Republicans that are pro-cannabis. There are Democrats who are anti-cannabis. I'm not going to take a party side because um, generally one side is better about it than the other. If somebody on the team who's generally bad about it becomes good, I'll take that person. Well, we
Yeah,
want
but
everybody in our tent.
let's at least give them the credit that they've earned. The Republicans tend to not be good with cannabis, and the Democrats tend to be good with cannabis. That's my experience when I go talk to people, and I generally identify more with the Republican people than I do the Democratic people too. It's like it's fucking weird for me because it's like I'm almost a one issue voter. Like, where do you stand on cannabis? That's my number one issue, and then I'll start asking other questions. So
Uh,
for me, I'm
um,
usually not usually friendly. I'm usually at odds with my with what's going on normally. So it's hard for me to talk to a politician that I like.
yeah, it's one big uniparty. They're all the same. Biden and them like, yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. They did nothing, and yeah, it's just like it's one big uniparty. Yeah, don't
I
get me
actually thought when I
started.
heard about the Schedule 3, it was going to be more, oh, there's something unpopular going on right now. Let me talk about something that's really popular and dangle it as a carrot in front
That's
of
what
this community.
Cuomo did in New
Whatever
York,
yeah, I will take it. Whatever it is, I will take
right?
it.
But
Whatever
no, this
makes you
time it's
happy,
actually
right?
going
I'll
through.
thank him for it too,
Yeah,
because
sometimes though, like Tao said, there has been past administrations and people even before that, going back to Obama, talking about legalizing it during the campaigns and stuff.
yeah,
Yes, I inhaled. I thought that was the point. And
yeah.
so Trump even talked about being up in the air towards it the first time around and the second time around. So both parties like Taoist. It can be like a uniparty. But cannabis, I think, makes us think for ourselves. I know so many cannabis users that are not red or blue. They're independent and they feel kind of alienated because
Well,
they feel
yeah.
a lot of strong things about this side and they feel a lot of strong things about that side, but they don't agree with everything that either side says. They look at it objectively as much as they can for what it is. And a lot of times you can just generally be unhappy if you are expecting perfection when it comes to politics. And so that's
Yeah,
something I advise people not to do. But at the same time, don't let imperfection be the, I don't know, blocker of better than a hell of a lot better than it was before, right? Like we don't expect perfection, expect a gradual move forward. And I think as much as we hate and despise how slow government and things can move, a lot of the time it has worked out well enough. I mean, for enough of us to get to the points that we're at safely and have opportunity to food and gas and all these things that we enjoy. Maybe it's more expensive now or whatever, whatever, whatever. I know we're getting political, but I think it just comes down to like we all do think for ourselves. Like I know more people that consume that aren't going to be one like in the general
Yeah,
public, when I hear people talk, I'm like, oh, that person watches CNN or that person watches Fox News because they're literally just saying the exact same stuff that I could see on either one of those things if I tune into either one of them. They're repeating word for word exactly what is being said by the talking heads on either one of the channels. And so they
a
could
pot
have really
smoker,
strongly
right?
held convictions of those sides, and I respect them for that. But sometimes they're just parroting what they feel like is um, the thing to do because maybe they were born into a state or a family or whatever, a culture that if you don't vote X, then you're a bad person. If you don't vote Y, then you're a bad person, and they'll get shamed or whatever it is. So they're like, well, even though I don't love everything X is doing, he's a hell of a lot better than Y over there. You know, my guy's shirt is better than your guy's shirt. Fuck your guy's tie. I hate his blue tie. I hate your red tie. And then there's like, oh, the purple tie guy over there. Like, fuck that guy. Like voting for him is a vote being taken away from my guy. So it gets to be a bit of a clown show at times. And I think that's not just America. I feel comfort in looking at every other country and seeing everybody else hate their own government as well. So
You totally
I
went
haven't
off
found
track,
another
Jack.
country where they're like, yes, my government's so awesome. I love everything they're doing. And then
You
if
know,
they do think that, then I question their sanity or thoughts or
Jack,
actual experience.
you started out with like, yeah, people who smoke pot like think independently, and that's basically what happened to me because I was born into a yeah. I don't know if I ever. I'm sure I told it. Like my parents were very born again, and they both right to life down the line. Well, they used to. They're passed since, but anyway. But I was into the mainstream upbringing, and they say cannabis is bad for you. It's the devil, and all this. Then when I finally got some into me, I realized, damn, they were lying to me about cannabis. What the fuck else are they lying to me about? And that's when it really opens up your mind to like, what was I listening to my entire life? These people are absolute idiots. And then when you start actually looking at things, you find many things that the government has lied to us about. So I think that's more than being red. And yeah, I'm anti-red, anti-blue, anti-orange. They're all dirtbag losers.
Anti-dare program making kids rat their parents out for using
Yeah.
drugs and teaching them all these crazy
But
convoluted.
you know what
The
else
drunk
I see?
goggles is such a funny one. Like I had to wear these goggles that made you feel like you're drunk. I got drunk later in life and I was like, that's nothing fucking like those drunk goggles. Those drunk goggles just like they do disorient you and make it extremely difficult for you to walk, but it's like it gives such a false expectation or like a fake reality. Because once that person drinks a little alcohol and like they're barely feeling anything, you slowly get like a little tipsy. And depending on what you're drinking, unless you're like ripping shots of 151 or something, which I've been there. But if you
Crazy.
take it easy, if you take it easy, you can fucking ride it up with cannabis or ride it up with alcohol and have a decent time. I know a lot of people that drink responsibly. I know a lot of people that smoke responsibly. I know a lot of people that do both at the same time. Some people couldn't dream of it because they call getting crossfaded like high and drunk at the same time something that just makes them vomit. So they just can't handle it for whatever reason. If they do both at the same time, it doesn't work with their system. So I think we all got to figure out what works for us and just not be ultra judgy because that's something I do here. As much as I love the cannabis community, we're at times guilty of being judgmental of like, oh, and I think it comes from a place of like little brother syndrome. I'm a little brother. I've got two older brothers, and it could be like, well, he did that. Why am I getting in trouble for like he did X? Why am I getting in trouble for Y? And it's like, well, alcohol and tobacco are fucking selling to kids and not getting in trouble. Like, why the fuck can't cannabis just like go a little bit less regulated? It's like, get off our back. Like, you guys are getting in fights and DUIs or whatever. Like, leave us the fuck alone. And it's like, yeah, there's cannabis DUIs and things like that, but it's I'm not trying to create division, but it's those are the types of examples of arguments that I hear against other communities that I think can be a little bit turning people away from our community. And even I hate to even talk about it because we just talked about it with politics, bringing it up at all. Like I'm sure a bunch of people just tuned out and they're like, "Fuck this! I don't want to hear anything about politics." And so I just think we got to try our best to not condemn these other communities and keep our tent as open as possible to open home grower community. Um, you know, I've been laughed at before. I've been bullied, picked on, teased, or whatever, and understand what it feels like. So I empathize going back to that person earlier, like thinking that maybe somebody's laughing at your question. Um, I wish they would have maybe stayed around to hear the whole answer if they didn't, or read the comment. I haven't seen if they responded to my response, but yeah, I just think that as much as we can, allowing people, even if uh, they're not deemed the best growers. Like I see a lot of that too, like shit talking on like growers that don't do well. Like they might be new, they might be there for a few years. their grow doesn't look as good as mine, so I'm gonna dunk on them. Like, oh, look at your fucking little shitty ass plants. And it's like, come on, y'all. Like, let's do better.
I
Let's build each other
I
up.
want to say something on that. You know what's I was talking to somebody the other day and I was telling them, like I was growing for about 12 years before I actually realized that I didn't actually know anything about plants. I didn't know anything about all I knew was protocols. I knew protocols and recipes. It took me 12 years of professionally cultivating to finally realize, oh shit, I really don't fucking know nothing. So if somebody is getting cocky, I just remind myself like they're not there yet. They're not there yet. They're probably a couple, they could be another decade away of realizing, oh shit, I don't fucking know anything about plants and I better learn.
The very first time I cultivated cannabis, my buddy and I, the very first time was outside. My buddy came back from college, first year back from college, and his buddies in South Carolina gave him beans, and we grew it outside. It was the best weed I smoked up till then. So I'm like, I'm gonna just start growing it for the rest of my life, and that's exactly what I did. But when I moved to my first place, my first house, when I moved out of my parents' house, um, I didn't know. I didn't grow anything ever before in my life. I grew the entire crop in solo cups because I didn't know better. My buddy, who we grew outside, I didn't come over in like a couple months or whatever it was. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" Because I would water them every day, and they were plants. I mean, they were like I didn't know what to expect. I had no expectations whatsoever. So that's the other thing. They were only maybe a foot, 2 feet high, and they would flop over it by the time I got to them every day too. And I didn't know nothing, but I knew after he came, it's like, you idiot, you got to put them in big potatoes and this. I'm like, oh, all right. So yeah, I knew after my very first grow that I knew nothing, and thank goodness my buddy was there to tell me too, because yeah, there was no internet, there was no cheap home grow shows to go watch and get information on. But yeah, that's a pretty funny story. But the
Even
shit was good
now,
too. It's really good weed out of the solo cups.
even now with like grow shows, you can watch a plant from start to finish on a time lapse video and see exactly what you're supposed to expect. But I know people that get into it and they're like, oh, it's gonna go just like that time lapse video I watched on Mr. Canucks Grow or whatever it is, where it's like they show like the plant like growing day by day by day, and they're like, oh, mine's gonna do that. I'm gonna plant my seed and it's gonna grow fast, and I'm gonna have these purple buds, and they're gonna be big and lush and fill up my whole entire canopy, and it's gonna be great. And then they try it, and then it's like, oh wait, fuck, mine are yellow, and it's wilting, and it's praying, and it's fucking growing wonky, and it's what the fuck is going on with that? Like, I didn't see that on the Instagram reels. I don't see that on people's posts or people's feeds. Some people are honest and they show even when shit's going awry in their garden and they post everything all the time. And I respect, that. And some people are just actually, in like Brandon's case, like posting all the time and their garden's just looking killer all the time. And same with Noah. Garden's looking killer all the time. Like if you put the work in and you bust your ass and you know what you're doing, it's possible to be consistently good all the time. And same with Spartan and Tao and everybody on this panel. But when we are able to dedicate ourselves with the knowledge, we can bring it all together. But when somebody doesn't have that, maybe they have the experience, but not the knowledge. My first couple of years, I was working with the crew where I was a water boy, and I thought, you know, because I was working as part of a crew, I knew how to grow, and so I had some little bit of feedback because I was truncheoning the buckets here and there to see the EC levels and things like that to manage where the feed was at and de-leafing and doing certain things, but as much as it felt like I knew what I was doing because we were crushing it, we were pulling down pounds and had a grow up, and it was fucking so cool. Like I was just there to fucking work for a little bit of trim and maybe a few bucks here and there. But the at the end of the day, when I left that and I came and started growing a little bit outdoors with my buddy in college, uh, it was so different. One, indoor versus outdoor. Two, organic versus synthetic. Three, it was like Brandon said, I'd been growing for a couple years, but had no fucking idea what I was doing. I was just following somebody else's routine. I knew the SOP. I could follow somebody else's directions. It's like baking a cake. Doesn't make you I can bake a pre-made cake or whatever, but making it from scratch, I think, is a whole different process, right? And when you do it yourself, every single thing is on you. That's sort of like the baking it from scratch. And you could follow somebody else's SOP and make it work your first time, some people crush it their first time. And I think with the advent of modern technology and great guides and tons of videos out there on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, everything, whatever. Think TikTok's actually anti-cannabis, but all over the internet, you can find great advice on how to grow cannabis. And like Tao was saying, 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, et cetera, it was less and less common. And it might be like a niche book. And you might not have heard about that niche book, and you definitely didn't have it. And so then there was like the era of books that were kind of full of like semi decent knowledge, but were like also kind of maybe some grow store owners that were trying to sell a bunch of nutrients and were sponsored by some companies that were trying to get you to buy a bunch of the nutrients and things like that. So there was that era. And even then, people were still having success. So it wasn't like the end of the world if you spent way too much money on nutrients. You were getting $7,000 a pound. Who gave a fuck, right? Because you're getting $7,000 a pound. You just pulled down 10 pounds. You're in the money. You paid off your whole entire grow op in your first operation, right? So it's like in a certain era, it made sense no matter how much the cost to some extent. Like you'd really have to fuck it up to not have a return on investment. That's why like some of these busts you see with like very little labor, very little care, they just like throw up a bunch of lights, throw up a bunch of plants and like squirt a bunch of water out with some automated watering systems, barely keep everything alive, but they pull down enough pounds to push to some markets to make some money. And for a long time, that was worth it. And still now, you still hear about it and see it. That goes to the whole international thing. You hear about the pound price here, but that's like businesses trying to sell it or people, from caregivers to home growers just trying to move maybe some of their overages. There's a market and a price and supply and demand, et cetera, et cetera. But when it goes to the international market, that's a whole bigger thing. So if you've got international groups that are coming in and growing crazy amounts, they don't care about the pound prices for Joe Schmo dispensary in San Diego. They care what it is where they're going to move it over to some other country, you know? So they're doing it whether it's regulated or not.
And it goes both ways too. I wonder if it's going to be cost effective for people or dispensaries to start importing cannabis from overseas if it's produced way cheaper, across the border, ship it into your dispo and you can actually make money. So I kind of foresee maybe some of that too. Now the competition isn't just in your state, contained in state borders. And it's not international. I mean, it's just not national, it's international. That can get crazy.
Pretty much every cut flower is grown in like Dutch or Holland or whatever, and then like South America and like Asian countries, they're cut and then flown in because the economies of scale and the labor costs and the economics of it are it's just way cheaper for people to grow those flowers elsewhere.
Don't
And we
sleep
have
on
some here,
Mexico, man. Mexico's got hectares and hectares.
powerhouse.
Yeah.
They grow a lot of our edible food crop, grapes, blackberries, fucking avocados. They are a powerhouse. And I'm actually like, despite all the back and forth with administrations, I think that for a long time we've actually had a pretty good standing relationship, trade relationship with them, and especially in the um, kind of ag sector. And so it's beneficial. They've got a lot of sun, a lot of land, a lot of good cultivators. They grow great coffee even. Shit. I just had great Mexican coffee recently. So shout out to Mexico, man. I love people all over the world, man. I wish it was more all one. Like I'm more of the you know, all people are brothers and sisters and cousins or whatever in a way. And whatever country, color, creed, we can all come together and find things that unify us, and cannabis being a major one of them. I've spoken to people, you know, uh, from Korea to England, Europe, all over Australia. Like it's internationally loved. And the only times you don't really hear it talked about or see it is when it's squashed down by authoritarian regimes. Any political regime that is going to kill or imprison people for life, including people here in the US, imprisoning people for life for cannabis is, to me, authoritarian and a complete overreach of power for a plant that has been shown to be so relatively innocuous in terms of harm, but extremely potent and powerful in terms of its medicinal values, and even from the stress release, recreational, whatever, social community bonding elements. Like even the fact that we've been on this show, coming up to 300, it's like 362, I think, this week. We're about to have enough shows that you could watch a Growing with My Fellow Growers every single day for an entire year and not have to repeat a single episode. It's kind of crazy to think about as a once a week show, where eventually we'll finally have hit 365 here in a couple weeks. And yeah, it's just it brings people together from Michigan to, formerly New York, now more in the Midwest somewhere. I won't necessarily dox out. I don't know if he talks about what state he's in, to Oklahoma, to Noah up in the Pacific Northwest. We kind of expand across all corners of the United States, and it just shows how it's appreciated by people in all walks of life in all places.
That's including our buddy Ty Sticks in chat there who says he's got a few more days and he can take down his first round of outdoor already. Got lucky with his mid-February planting.
Hell yeah, man. Shout out to Ty Six out there in Vegas, getting a little outdoor crop in early. And hopefully our buddy on the 420 trail gets to link up with him. Maybe he'll get to toke on a little bit of that Ty Six outdoor homegrown. Ty Six grows some fucking fire, dude. Me and Lady Greenstock are over here cheesing thinking about that stuff because he gave us some samples that are worthy of putting a smile on your face. And like I said, I've talked about it in past shows, but Lady G sees a lot of cannabis. She buys and sells a lot in all the different markets, and she probably has a better nose than even myself. And so she knows great cannabis, has been around it for a very, very long time. And she was very impressed by not only Tie Sticks, but also Johnny fucking Caniseed, man. Johnny Caniseed grew some fire too out there in Las Vegas. So shout out to all the Gromies across the US. It's so worthy of anybody who travels. Put it out there that you're traveling is anyway in the chat wherever you can to be like, hey, I'm coming to XY city, and you can get hooked up. Oh yeah, shit, I might be in Vegas next month, speaking of which. So we'll see. We'll see. Well, I'll let the people know, just like I'm encouraging others to do. But that's the beauty of this community is that we really do, I think, show up and show out. Johnny drove like half an hour to come see me while I was working an event. So I appreciate Johnny for that. Ty was, I think, also working that event, or he was just at the event. I think he was working. He was with the, I think, old hippie Medibles, who uses fucking balm all the time. So again, just can't give enough shout outs and love to the cannabis community, all the people out there. I mean, I'd go on forever talking about like Seed Person sending me seeds, Brandon sending me seeds, Spartan sending me seeds, Tao sending me seeds, fucking everybody. Noah being here all the time, showing off his garden, showing the people what's up with the HPS that it can still fucking throw down. I love that because I do admit at times we get a little bit high and mighty on the LED content on the panel, thinking about how it's the most efficient and the most modern, and it does work very well. But then you've got folks like Noah, and there's a lot of people, admittedly, even in the commercial markets, that I thought there was supposed to be some ban, but I haven't seen some giant drop off in HPS. There's still a lot of HPS, more than I would have expected in 2026, with all the rebates and incentives and things like that. HPS continues on. So shout out to the people that can represent it, like Noah. And Noah was in his outdoor garden earlier. Are you going to get to pop into your indoor garden?
Yep. About 5 minutes.
Heck
Lights
yeah.
come on and I'll be out there rocking and rolling.
Can't wait to see it, Noah. I'm always stoked when you get to show it off, and it was awesome on the show. I think that our buddy on the 420 trail, he worked in the dispensary space, so I think you get your mind kind of focuses on just the commercial industries and all the different brands in that space and all the different dispensaries and all the different options in that. And you, even if you're not growing it yourself, you forget about the homegrown option. You forget that there are home growers out there that are just like savages dedicated to this craft. And then he gets to like see Noah's garden pop up and see fucking Coca-Cola sized buds up there. And I'm like, hey, dude, hit up some of these home growers. Like, you're gonna enjoy their stuff. And I really think that he will, and hope that he does. So, um, it'll be awesome when we get to hear when he goes through Vegas, or whenever I get to stop through there again to hit up the locals there. Johnny and others. It looks like Brandon might be popping into his garden here in a second. We got his lovely face here on the camera. Looks like he's flipping it around. And there's some plants. This is what the people come for. Big green colas, beautiful. Talking about LEDs and how they can throw down. Brandon representing right here. Organic, LED grown. I think I don't know if you're on mute or if you're just not talking.
I'm just not talking.
I was jibber jabbing.
Yeah, these are around day 35, 36, something like that. Big old chunkers in the back. I got this one back here. It's fucking crazy looking. This one's pretty cool too. This is a blueberry starliner. Wish I could really get close up with this, but won't do really good close ups on the Zoom. But maybe you guys can see this one.
It looks great, man.
Yeah, that one's connecting all the way, huh?
Good stack for sure.
Yeah, they're all stacked. Everything in here is super stacked. This one's crazy right here. All these are. I got blueberry starliner in here. I have some. This right here is a cut seeds from 24 years ago, 23 years ago. This is the Shine Rack Blueberry MK Ultra, the parent to this one right here. You can see how close they look. They look almost identical, but this is the baby, this is the mom. And then I've got some Chem Dog crossed to Starfighter Mech. And these will finish really fast. They'll be done probably by like day 50, I imagine. And then this right here,
Those are fast as shit. They're done by day 50. Damn.
this right here, not that one, this one right here. This is the fucking most insane weed right here. Like the flavor on this shit is insane. I'm gonna go back over that frosty one. Show you guys that one.
What is that one?
Uh, it is high divorce rate crossed to limelight.
All right. Is that limey or is the
It's like trop,
limelight?
it's like trop lime.
Oh, okay.
There you
And
go. You can see the resin on the
Oh, yeah, there you
fin.
go.
yeah, they're all caked out. But so are these ones.
Oh, yeah, they're looking good.
But yeah,
Are they
we
sticky or are they more the grain? Are they more like the sandy?
all my stuff's pretty sticky. I don't think they'd wash well. But yep, that's my garden right here. Nice big old spears. Again, these will get harvested. They still have at least 21 days, at least 3 weeks left. Those ones might go two. But, but we'll see. I have to leave on the 22nd to New York, so
Well, they better be ready by then. God damn
if not, then it'll be a whole 10 days extra that they get.
it. Those
That's
are
like a
You
whole
fucking
different
outside?
nice
strain.
though. You got some big ass fucking stacks. That one in the middle, especially. Holy fuck.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
look
a
at that.
cattail.
Yeah. This one right here is a fucking beast. It's got these 3 spears right here.
Yeah. Imagine that fucker outside, dude.
But that's the garden. Oh, you guys want to see something funny?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, what's
Oh,
up? This is my bulldog.
Looks good.
I didn't plant any of this. I haven't
what?
fertilized any of this. I haven't done anything except some IPM stuff.
It's a nice cover crop you got going there.
Yeah, dude, it just kind of did popped up all by itself.
You should be throwing this shit in smoothies every day, bro. Fucking blend it up, drink it, eat it.
You
So
look. Is it regular? You looking for males yet?
no, the males I've already pulled out of here.
All right, there you go.
I remember like last week, I think, or the week before, he was weeding out the males.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mr. Week.
Chubby.
How dare you, Tao?
Yo, my dog was chewing. I took it down a plant. He was eating the leaves.
Dogs.
Dogs are awesome. Any religion that doesn't love on dogs is not good, in my opinion. Just to let you guys know.
I think this is a land race hybrid right here because this is where the land race was last year. Well, it was right over there, but
You can see it's already way taller than everything else.
and then I didn't plant any of these ones either. This one's gnarly looking. Ooh, this one's gonna have to get sprayed.
Uh-oh.
Bugs on it. Kind
You
of
spray it
weird
with some
looking.
you spray it with some fire. That'll get rid of them bugs.
Yeah. Like I said, I think these things are probably gonna get chopped down. I was gonna plant a bunch of food right back here. Ooh, that one looks nice though. It's a
I
nice
did a
looking.
bunch of work in the backyard. We're gonna be growing a bunch of food this year. I planted tomato or potatoes already, 2 rows of potatoes, onions, garlic. Put up a
Yeah.
fence.
We got a
My garden
frost
should be
last
ready to
week.
harvest soon.
It's warm enough by you, Spartan?
Yeah, it's all
All
right.
right.
It's all right. We got. I mean, they give us frost warnings and everything, but I mean, it's not. I mean, I can still dig in the ground and fucking put shit in
Right,
the
right.
ground. But no, I think we got our last frost on actually just Saturday was our last. Yesterday was our last frost. I think that we're gonna get until the
Yeah, I think
fall.
we're done too, finally. Yeah.
I mean, I stepped away there for a second, but appreciate you showing off the garden there, Brandon. Always cool to get a little garden update and check in. I guess before Noah is in his garden, I want to ask Tao, how's your garden been going?
Yeah, I'm not in my spot right now, but next week I'll show you. One of my plants is really bad. I don't know if I'm going to let you guys see that one, but one of them is good. But yeah, as you were saying, if you're not, there was 2 days that were like 90 degrees here, I guess, a couple weeks ago. And yeah, and then before that, that one before got dried out and I took that one out. But yeah, one's looking ugly and one's not all that happy, but there, and it's almost done. It's like week 8 right now, I think. But yeah, I'll make sure. I'm not gonna take them down before next week. I'll definitely have one playing in there to be able to show you.
No rush. I was just more asking, like, I'll probably pass it over to Spartan and ask him about his garden here in just a second
Oh,
as well. But yeah,
but
just verbal
I did
check-in.
start. I'm sorry, I did start a bunch of beans. I started like a bunch of God's Girl. I have some pack that was just laying around. I figured I'd pop it. I forget what it was. It was some like random strain, and then something that was a green crack. That's one that someone had sent me. So I have seedlings up. Some of them look like they're like deformed, but I'll show you them too the next time we're here.
So I feel like sometimes seedlings grow out of that kind of stuff, but maybe it could be a mutant. You've had one of the funkiest mutants I have ever seen to this day, so who
Yeah, that thing's
knows?
free.
But Spartan, how is your garden looking? Anything new or exciting going on over there?
Yeah, I've got besides all the vegetable garden and flower gardens outside. Actually, we're getting some cannabis getting ready to go outside too. But in my flower room, I just put in 2 of the gas from Brandon Russ, gas number or gas 2 V2s, and I put 2 phenos of those in. One I've already, I mean, I've been smelling it from veg, and it still smells better than the other one in flower. So I think that's going to be the winner so far, but we'll see. We'll see. It's still early. And then what else did I put in there? We put in a Spartan Puke and a Nuketown, which is the Chernobyl to Golden Goat from Irie Genetics. So that's what we just threw in the flower room at home. At the Drycom Forge, we have half a room of GMO, which is looking beautiful right now. I can't remember where we're at, probably about halfway through or so. Nah, I shouldn't say that. Probably about 4 weeks through. That's not halfway with GMO. Probably about 4 or 5 weeks in. And then the other side is disco fries. So that's the two. And that, it's funny because I'm glad we have it on two different sides because the GMO is obviously a little bit taller, and then the disco fries is like the opposite. It's short as fuck. So it's cool. It's cool, and we're really hoping that that run is basically just for concentrate. So it's gonna be cool to see how those. I know the GMO is gonna be a good concentrate one, but it's gonna be cool to see what exactly we get out of it. Because this was the first time we've run any kind of, we've ran like one or two plants before, but we've never, it was always mixed in just kind of for personal. But now we're like, all right, let's just run a good amount. So that's 10 plants.
Sounds good. I bet the GMO concentrate's gonna be fire because every GMO concentrate I've ever had has been fire, and it's been a lot, and they've always been really good. And I just think it's like a match made in heaven. Like GMO is just like it's like peanuts. A lot of people grow them, but a lot of the time it's made to peanut butter, right? GMO is often not enjoyed as flour, but as concentrate, and I think that's one of those things. It's just like way more people are gonna enjoy it as concentrate. Speaking of beautiful flowers, Noah, you
Keep
grow
going,
a
Noah.
what are we looking at over here? Like we were talking about earlier, consistently
Yeah,
killing it with HPS.
yeah. Oh yeah, there they are. Duct tape. Like I said, in the back over here is the Dosilato. I just threw it in. I figured I'd give it one more chance. Cerviceo. And then in my clone room, I got some new trap fuel that I'm getting ready to try out. And I've got my eye out for this key lime pie that I'm trying to get from the local clone store. But yeah, they're stacked pretty good. Uh, some of these strains, don't stack as well as some other ones that people grow. But it's just my personal preference and taste. It's what I go with, and we got about a 1 week. This one right here, this one will get pulled down. I'm on start of week 9 right now, but this one will get pulled down a couple days early just because I'm almost completely out. But then I started giving it water only a couple days early, but we're about day 8 of water only so far right now. Probably about day 56 from 12 flip.
Looking good, man. It's starting to fade out. It's a good finish.
Oh, it's fading.
I know that you've always gone for the more potent and better flavorful stuff than the bigger yielders, and
Oh
I
yeah.
respect that big time because I'd rather have less but better. Like if it's not like a gigantic trade-off, like you can find some stuff that still yields pretty good and is very good tasting and great high, compared to the stuff that just like yields insanely but is like okay. I'll definitely take the higher quality every time.
I like
Dude.
things that store well because that's something that I think is often overlooked, and things that can store well and they're still like really terpy when you crack the jar, even if it's been a month or whatever.
Oh, I agree
That
with that.
I do prefer it fresher. I've come to find over the years, but some stuff I always mention my Doc Holidays. It's like a Huckleberry uh, cookies to Hellfire OG or something. It turned like really blueberry after being kind of like a gassy pine like OG, and that was interesting for me. Oh, my camera got all wonky. I'm zoomed in on my face. Hello, everybody. I'm gonna turn my camera off, turn it back on. Hopefully that fixes it. Yeah, there we go. But yeah, the Doc Holidays was one. I brought it to Sungrown 707 on my honeymoon with Lady Greenstock. We took a road trip up the beautiful coast of California, and I stopped there, and he's like, "Dude, you're saying this is gas and pine?" And he like handed me the jar. He's like, "Smell it." I was, "That smells like blueberry candy, bro." I was like, "Okay." And I smell it, and I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" It smelled completely different. It's like one of those like I kept like the last nug or half ounce, whatever the hell it was, and it definitely cured into something completely different. So really interesting how certain stuff can change as it cures. But I think like you're talking about more generally, just like within a 1 month period, that was more like a year period. In 1 month, stuff can dramatically get worse. There's a lot of stores, like I was talking Lady G, she's in the legal market now doing a lot of the work, but many stores now have a 90-day policy. They want it within like 90 days of packaging. And if it's not within 90 days, then they're going to sell it at 50% discount because the customers are demanding fresher, which I'm actually happy to see. Because legally it can sit for up to a year, before it's considered expired. But I think the fact that they actually give a fuck at all, the consumer, is a positive direction, right? It's like asking about terpenes. It's like asking about more than what's the highest THC or the cheapest thing you got. I also understand why people are going from that direction, like budget shopping and also thinking that THC, because it's like one of the main cannabinoids that makes cannabis different than aromatherapy, right? We could get terpenes from lavender oils or pine oils or whatever and dust ourselves with them all day long with a little diffuser for 1/100th of the cost that it would take to get the level of terpenes from cannabis. So I think it's more of a preferential, experiential kind of thing. But yeah, that
They're
I
making
think
their
people also
own.
underestimate that. Go ahead.
I was just thinking maybe if somebody was making their own like butter for edibles or something like that. Just looking at, well, just give me whatever your cheapest shit is because they're going to concentrate it anyway. I could see maybe if there's a hell of a deal because I've seen some crazy deals. Um, if it has some THC in it, and they're going to extract it anyway, I could see maybe doing that. But yeah, I don't think I'd do it to try to smoke.
I'm with you on that. And this is a little bit unrelated, but don't want to forget to mention this. I've been sending out the GG4 cuts to many, many people, and the upgraded packaging has been successful. The plants are arriving less beat up and in better shape, which I'm happy to see and hear. I figured we could adjust and benefit from that. One of the individuals who was next on the list, thankfully, let me know. They said, "Hey, my plant counts and stuff right now, it's just not going to work. Throw me back down on the bottom of the list." And I said, "Absolutely, man, no worries." He got back to me and let me know, so I appreciate that. If you're in that situation where you're just like, "Oh, I can't take another rooted plant right now," just let me know because there's one or two people that I have GG4 cuts basically with your name on it. I've sent you a link and it's all squared up and good to go. And if I don't hear back from you in the next like 2 or 3 days, I'd say like 7 to 10 day grace period from when I initially email you. Because to be fair, it's been like months since you guys initially emailed me asking for it. So thank you all for your patience and your waiting. But I'm happy to finally be able to root them, plant them, and get them shipped out to the people. And I'm going to continue to do it until everybody on that list is taken care of. And so I'll send you the link when it's time for yours to get taken care of. And if it works for you, then just follow the link and everything will be good. If it doesn't work for you, send me an email and say, hey, it's not working right now. Maybe just put me back on the bottom of the list, and then I'd be happy to check in with you in a couple other weeks, months, who knows? Probably months at this point, if I'm being honest, because there's still a deep list. But I'm happy to say I've gotten them out to a good number of people, and I know at least a couple of those people are like, as soon as I get it big enough, I'm taking a cut and I'm sharing it with my other Gromy, and then he's gonna share it with his other Gromy, and like it is literally exactly what I was hoping was gonna happen with this process because it's like going back to the genie being out of the bottle. It's gonna continue every which direction because like some people will be like, "Oh, I got it from Jack," and then that person in Ohio, the first one that got the cut, is gonna be like, "I got it from Jack," and then everyone's gonna be like, "Well, I got it from person A, person number one," and that person will give it to as many people as they can. I'm like, the only thing that I hope and request of anybody is when people ask you for it, that you give it to them, give it out as freely as possible, and try and do it as affordably and reasonably as possible. If you're going to ship it out, you can get reimbursed for your costs or whatever, just like I am. But try and don't sell it for like $200 or $300. Like sell it as affordably as possible. Ideally under $50 if you have to ship it somewhere, and ideally like very very inexpensive if you're handing it off to somebody locally because a cup, a little bit of soil, and another rooted cut if you've already taken a bunch and you're just like, hey, I've got a few extras, let those out as economically affordably as possible as you can. That's my biggest request with the whole open source genetics alliance thing. It's overgrow the planet. I love that website. They still actually have people on there posting in the forums, and I love to go on there and read occasionally the modern people posting in the overgrow forums. But I think the actual mission, the in-person mission, um, more so than just like going out on plant a seed day or whatever and like putting them in your local police department's flower pots or something, like actually handing them to another grower and getting people growing is a step that I think we're all trying to make. And whether it's a friend or a family member or somebody online, which I've happily helped thousands now, which is like super cool because if I never got on Instagram or social media or YouTube, I would have never helped anywhere close to the number of growers that I was able to help by doing this show and just being involved. And people be like, "Hey, can I get some seeds?" Or when I made some testers, I sent them out to hundreds of people. And now that I'm doing the open source genetics alliance, it's gonna be hundreds of people getting clones. And um, in person, my cannabis circle is only so deep, maybe dozens of people, not hundreds or thousands of people. So by being online, this is like it really it cheers me, like it gives me great joy.
This
It
is
fills me
like
with
the
joy.
hell, this is like the most secure bank for you. Like you will always have GG4 because you've sent it out to so many people. Like when you need it again, you'd be like, yo, guys, I need that GG4 back. Somebody's got it, you know? A
Exactly.
lot of people
Exactly.
interested in chat right now. What do they do if they want to get on that list?
Email me at jackgreenstock47@gmail.com and just say GG4 in the subject line or Death Star in the subject line. I think I've got my first Death Star. That's going to be my mother. I need a couple more Death Stars before I start sending them out to people. But that's had struggles rooting. I'm exploring some other, like, I'm going to do the sand tech. I haven't actually started it. I've got the sand to do it. And I'm also going to do some like root plugs and peat plugs and things like that to see what works best for that one. Because I want to, in general, get as many of both of them taken as fast as possible, as much as possible, and send them out to as many people as possible. Eventually, I'm gonna have like a smaller veg area that's holding my mothers. Right now, my whole entire flower area is basically holding some giant mother plants, and I'm getting tons and tons of cuts off of. But they're about to the point where I'm gonna get like my last round of cuts off of them soon, and then flip everything to flower for the first time, and then everything's gonna be in a little bit of a backup stage for you know the 2 month or so period, or 9 weeks roughly period to get that stuff through flower, and then we'll continue the cycle with as many people as I can get on there. And eventually, I might try and figure out a little group to anybody who's gotten on the list. If they're like, "Hey, I got one, and I'm willing to start sharing it with people," they can start having people contact them either locally or online, and that way we can just have it be like instead of just Jack's tiny little tent
Yeah,
supplying this thing.
you need Discord, Jack, or something like Discord so that it can
Yeah,
be a centralized way of communicating so that everybody who wants in can be in and they can be different holders of the cuts.
exactly.
It can be way more efficient.
Because people have already offered up, like, I've got seeds, I've got cuts, I want to share this with the community. And I just needed to figure out a way. And like, I looked into it, Discord, seed person let me know they're going to start IDing people in like the next 6 months. And I know how cannabis people are. That's going to turn a bunch of people away. I'm going to use like a Discord clone that's like open source or like the secure one. There's like six other options out there. I Googled, like, what are the best Discord alternatives? And it gave me a bunch of really cool options. One's open source, one's highly secure. Some tossing up which one would be the best for our community. I think secure is probably the main thing that people are looking for, like anonymity, security, and just that kind of protections or whatever. But as long as it works and as long as there's a place for us to say, hey, I'm looking for X clone or I'm holding XY clone and I'm willing to share that into the group, who wants it? And then people can start saying like, oh, I want it. And then just like myself, they'd be like, all right, email me. At least for me, this was the easiest way because then I have a chronological list. I can just type in GG4 in my email and I go back. I do like most recent and then I scroll. And in this case, I have like more than 25 or whatever. So I have to click to the next page and then scroll back to the very first ones and then see who I haven't already responded to and go in reverse order because I don't want to make it like preferential. I'm just going to hook up the homies first kind of thing. I want to, the whole point of being like open source to me is being just open source, sharing it as freely as possible, as much as possible with whoever possible. You don't have to be my best friend or family member or cousin or something. It's if you ask for it, you're on the list just like everybody else.
There's some people had a preference, there's a few in chat that had a preference of a cut over a clone. Could they put that in the email? And maybe when you make that cut, you could just send them a cut in some wrapped up paper towel or
Yeah.
maybe an aloe frond or something.
Yeah. I was actually considering doing like an options thing. For the first couple, I just wanted to get them out there. And I was like, this is how I'm taking mine. And any of the extras are going to be essentially OSGA clones. And I've got my little system that works for me. So I was like, I'm going to just bang these, at least first however many out. I don't want to start getting into numbers and maybe potentially self-incriminate. But that being said, I am open to suggestion. Like people were giving commentary on, I like one of the guys was saying it arrived well. It was just a little bit hard to open, and like the cardboard kind of got soggy from the soil. So maybe I'm considering like getting like a pool noodle and then like chopping that pool noodle into like 100 little inserts to put on the top of the soil to snug it down with the Gorilla Tape because the pool noodle will not absorb moisture. It's kind of inert, little
Yeah.
substance or whatever, and you can get them inexpensively at my local grocery stores and stuff like that, and cut them into the shape of the little collar to slip around the plant. They already usually have a hole in the center for like air or whatever to keep them more buoyant. Or in my case, when I was a kid, or even as an adult, blowing some water through it at your friend or family member in the pool. But yeah, I think I'm always open to feedback, and I think slips or cuts versus clones, like a non-rooted version of it, would be, from a economic standpoint, probably cheaper to ship as well. And it doesn't require it to actually grow roots at my place, so I don't have that 7 to 14 day process in my cloner, and I can much more easily just take a cutting off the top of the GG4, wrap it up in a damp paper towel, throw that into a bag, put that bag inside of like a plastic tube, and then put that plastic tube inside of a shipping container, and have that shipping container delivered to your house in a couple days. And then you'll be able to, if you want to put it in Johnny Caniseed Sandtech, you can do that. If you want to put it into your Aero cloner or whatever, you can do that. If you want to put it in a plug, you can do that, or however you want to go about doing it. But I think part of me wanted, because I understand in the past, like I sent, I'll just say it, it's past the statute of limitations at this point. I sent Eagle Gardens a clone, and it got lost for like 7 or 10 days, something crazy in the mail. But I put like a little LED in there with like a battery that lasted way longer than that, because it was still alive and still in veg when he got it, and he was able to grow it into a mother plant. And he goes like, the box was beat to hell, and it was like all kicked around. Somebody from, I won't say what postal service, who listens to the show, let me know that although it might look like they're beating the shit out of the packages or they're kicking them around, even if you write this side up, even if you do the package labeling all perfect, at a certain point in certain postal services, he had some fancy word, but it basically like goes down a conveyor belt and just like drops into like a big bucket or whatever. And that like bucket gets moved from one spot to another. And there's a lot of parts that are automated in the process. And so it can like tumble, tip, fall, and like get banged around in those processes, in the entirely non-handled by humans. So it wasn't like some guy was having a bad day and he just kicked your fucking package across the post office, even though it might feel like that, and maybe they
Or it
did,
was.
or it was. And
I,
sometimes it's more obvious that it was.
I just assume they have fucking Ace Ventura fucking delivering packages.
Pretty much. And so I do a cardboard buffer in the top, and I do a little pre-shake before I send it out to see like what it's like if I shake it around a little bit, just to make sure that it's not, gonna fucking fly around in the package and get all busted up. But like I said, the last couple, several I should say, have success. All of them actually. Nobody has requested a second one. And I was offering them for free if you had it die. So they would offer, they would request another one if it would have died, I would imagine. And so nobody requested a replacement. So even the ones that got a little bit roughed up in the shipment, it shows that the plant is resilient. And the people on the receiving end are home growers that are capable and knowledgeable, and they can take a plant that's a little bit beat up and get it back to good health. So I'm proud slash happy with all of them. And if they do ever need one for whatever reason, one of the ones that got beat up or anybody else along the way, I'll be happy to get you, sorted as quickly as possible, because I am a one man show so far. But once we get this whole Discord's like clone operation set up, then we can move forward with having several hubs, because that's the ultimate overgrow. I mean, overgrow, the forum itself has acted as that for a long time. A lot of people would be like, I've got this clone, and then here's how I grow it. And then they show like their pictures, and people be like, hey, can I get that cut? And they'd be like, yeah, do you have something to trade for it? Or I'll give it to you for X amount of dollars. And, you know, uh, grower to grower interaction, I think is some of the best. That's like I think just consumer to consumer or customer to customer or person to person is a great way to cut shitty businesses out of the things. Like if you know somebody else who's in your hobby, you can go to some hobbyist show and buy something directly from them, or meet them on the side, like a weed show. Fucking you trade seeds with somebody or buy seeds from somebody. Like it doesn't have to be through a seed bank or through, and not to cut away seed bank sales. They're important. I love every single part of the industry because they all serve their sort of purpose. I think it's all like a giant funnel. Even like the most commercial, shittiest, boofiest dispensary weed acts as part of the net that can like lure people into like, oh wait, there's actually better versions of that. Oh wait, this one makes me feel good. This one smells good. This one actually treats my insomnia. Oh fuck, like this isn't just like something that like you're doing to like giggle and like have fun with your friends in school. This is like actually a powerful tool and powerful medicine. And so that can happen from the shittiest of shit cannabis, brickweed. A lot of us started there, right? But look at where we are now. So don't feel ashamed if you had to start with the corporate booth or Mexican brick or Beasters or whatever the hell it is, you know?
No, that's why I don't get down too much on it. It's like it's not for me, but it's not my lane. And there's people that can still benefit from that. People that are new to the market that can still get a medical benefit from that. So I'm glad that it's available to them, and they don't have to, drive down to the city and look for somebody in a shady alley. You know what I mean, or some ridiculous story like that. So, access. That's cool. I'm not mad at it. I'm not happy with the business practices, but I'm not happy with business practices of food people or, a lot of other businesses. So I don't know. I guess it's consistent.
I'll say as a result of not having to buy it from a person in the shady alley, even if you're like a me or a Spartan grown, right? Like if you had to like buy it from us in an alley, like we might be the nicest teddy bear humans you've ever met, but you don't know that, right? I'm the guy who's selling you weed in the alley. Like I might be a shady shyster. I might have a knife or something. I might try and shank you and rob you or whatever. Cause like you're not used to this underworld, illegal, unregulated scene. Like you might be a 80-year-old woman who's used to going to a pharmacy and picking up her stuff with a doctor's prescription. And now you see one of the largest growing populations of cannabis users is the elderly. Because, and I saw it when I went into dispensaries, and my wife works in that kind of space still, and I still occasionally go in and check things out. A lot of them are older and they feel comfortable because there's a security guard there. There's a check-in at the door. There's a process that they feel like, hey, you know what? I'm not at least they don't feel like they're in danger. They feel comfortable. They're happy. They're used to these types of processes. You go through the airport, they're going to check your ID. There's going to be security. You go to a concert, there's going to be security. They're going to check your ID. It's part of life. So people get comfortable with that. And I think I'm really happy to see that result happening. Like people, my mom, my fucking mother, who was just like Tyler was talking about with his parents, anti-cannabis as they come. She never, like my dad was like on the fence. He's like, you know, it's illegal. It can get you in trouble. Like he smoked it. He had fun with it in his time and he realized it wasn't like the worst thing in the world. My mom was like, the opposite. She had like panic attacks, thought it was the worst thing. Like it's just a big problem. It's only going to get you in trouble. And well, why even get in trouble for something that can cause such a negative effect? But now she's using it on the opposite end, taking CBD mix edibles before she gets on airplanes to calm her flying anxiety and asking me and my wife, like, how much of this should I take? It's like, wow, the shoe has shifted to the other foot, but I'm so happy. And I would never shame her. I'm never even gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe you used to. No, thank you for asking me. I'm glad you asked me. You know, it's like, don't, if somebody was that, for whatever the reason, anti-cannabis person, and then they come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking about trying this or I've got this and be like, hell yeah, fucking let me know where you're gonna or let me put you onto something even better. Let me give you some of my own, you know, or however you have to approach it. But that's the whole going back to the thing of like it's for everybody. And I really believe that. Um, this might even sound crazy to say, but there are youth that benefit for a number of different reasons. And I think that that's something that also will hopefully be explored. How will it affect development? How will it impact people that have maybe endocannabinoid related disorders, maybe ADHD or autism or some of these other things is going to be at least supplemented with a amount of CBD or THC or some ratio that's determined to benefit these types of people. So going back to the Schedule 3 thing, I'm a little bit optimistic. I try to be, at least see the glass half full. I've been a realist for a lot of my life, and that can be admittedly depressive when you look at the world and there's a lot of nasty shit, especially if you just watch any mainstream news on any side. I'm not picking on either side. They both do this. They catastrophize. And like Tao said, two wings of the same bird. It almost feels like they're both operating for the same uniparty at times, but it can be really sad and depressing. But like when you actually dig deeper, there's actually good people on both sides and in the middle all over the fucking place doing great shit all the time, busting their asses that you don't see, don't hear about, don't show up on the news, don't show up on whatever, but they're working behind the scenes, just grinding to make our community a better place, the world a better place, better cannabis laws. There's cannabis lawyers that you guys have definitely not heard about. There's shows out there. I listen to some of them and I'm like, holy shit, this is like a cool podcast. This is like this guy is a cannabis attorney and he's talking all about the laws and the law changes. I'm like, man, there's some really fucking cool community members and like they might have like 100 listeners on their show because it's like really nitty gritty we don't want to talk about all the regulations and the actual line by line law stuff, but there are people out there doing it, and thank goodness they are. Normal and others that are grinding to make sure that we get better laws, better policies. The future can no, not future cannabis project, the what the fuck is it called? The Last Prisoner Project and other similar things like that that are working to get people out of prison for cannabis and trying to regulate in a way that makes it so if people do get busted, it's more of like a instead of a crime you go to prison for, maybe like a charge or a fee or a fine or something like that, which I think is a lot more reasonable. And because we're not seeing in any of the states that have lessened punishment on cannabis crime, major waves in cannabis criminals. And so that is one of the not to talk shit about other people, but just to highlight the positive aspects of our community is many of the people, their only thing on their record was simply possessing what is now considered a medicine and is now considered uh, adult use legal thing. And so it's just a continuation of all these dominoes falling in the right direction and tones shifting and opinions shifting. Eventually, some people that won't change their mind are slowly dying off and being replaced with people that are more open-minded. And even the ones that you would have thought would have to die before they change their mind have sometimes changed their minds before your eyes. It could take a friend or a family member or themselves getting sick or to a place where they're just like, you know what? I can't do X unless I feel better. And one of the routes to feeling better is this thing I thought was bad for so long, but now I saw Sanjay Gupta talk about it on TV, right? Like
Yeah. Or
that's how
take
a lot of
Schedule
people.
3 to make people be able to research it more. And more white papers come out saying, hey, this stuff is medicine to finally convince some people, you
Wait
know?
until it's like, oh, this is from Harvard or Duke Medical. Like I have a family member that has a deep connection with like Duke and their medical program, and they're very not friendly with cannabis or positive to the idea of it. They're very much traditional medicine, and they believe that it has to be federally like they would accept like Epidiolex or any of the regulated like cannabinoids only in the purpose like that they're written for on the thing. They're that kind of doctor. But with Schedule 3, if there's a Duke medical study that comes out to find, oh, it's actually really good for the heart, or hey, if people are going to be using it anyway, adjust your warfarin dosage by this much because cannabis is a blood thinner for this population of people, and it will impact your blood thinner usage or your surgery recovery and all these different things. So it's like we're going to have knowledge is fucking power, and I know it's cheesy as hell to say, but we're going to have more knowledge in a good way in a lot of different like we just touched on the surface of probably a dozen of the different things, but there's so many more implications to the Schedule 3. I'm again just optimistic when it can be easy to get down. I think this is a good time to take a win, take it in stride, but don't stop grinding, don't sleep on it. Continue to try and push forward and try and make your state, local, federal laws better, whether you're in the US or wherever you're at. Just keep on trying to advocate however you can. And even if it's just silently from a little, not silently, but a social media page that's an anonymous account because you're in a place that you can't expose your real name even if you're not like I'm in a legal place, I go by a pseudonym, right? So I think that everybody should, engage at their comfort level. And with that said, we've only got about 2 minutes left before we wrap up this kind of all over the place show, but we touched on a lot of good stuff, and I'm really happy that we did so. And I'm gonna pass it over first to Spartan Grown for final thoughts and shout outs before we close it down.
Thank you, Jack. Oh, I just think that everybody should just do their part by growing their own, right? I think that's the best first step. And maybe you don't have a yard. Maybe you have a yard. Put it out in the yard. That's the fucking first easy way to do it. If you don't have it in a yard, put it in a pot on your back porch. Hopefully your neighbor won't steal the damn thing. But give it a try, and you'll be surprised the quality that you can grow with not a whole lot of effort. And then you want to start putting effort into it, and then the quality explodes even more, and then you're hooked. Then you're hooked. You can't stop. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. Much love, everybody. Keep growing.
Absolutely, man. That's a great advice there to close it out, and I'll pass it next to Brandon Russ.
Yep, make sure you guys go tap in, protect your gardens this season. Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I will see you guys next weekend.
Great advice as per usual, and I think Matthew Gates would support that advice as well. And I know he hasn't been around for a while, but we're still homies. I see him in person, and we link up. So I love Matthew Gates and our IPM stuff. And Brandon's products are very good. And there was somebody else in the industry that I don't have ties with either of these guys, but somebody else basically called me out for saying that somebody was unfairly hyping their products and basically shitting on all other products in the industry. And I had to say like Brandon was included in that. So I was like, well, what's your proof? And then like, I'm not gonna share my fucking proof. Like, well, so you're doing a trust me, bro thing? And I was like, man, fuck that shit. Shout out Brandon Russ because he's always open and honest with all of his processes and what he uses and why he uses it. And his products are fucking awesome. So that's a unsolicited shout out. I don't get anything for saying that. He's just my homie. So I am a little bit biased in that regard, but his shit is actually fucking fire. Or I wouldn't use it. I'd be fucking honest. I've got some other homies that have made products that I don't use. So I'll say that. Noah the Grower is next up.
Yeah, I had a great time. It was cool seeing Brandon's grow. It was cool going out there and seeing mine. Yeah, I don't have much else to say, but just keep growing. I'm No Other Grow on Instagram. We'll see everybody next week.
I wish you the best with the strawberries and everything else in your non-cannabis and cannabis garden, Noah, because man, I was closing my eyes and well, maybe not actually, but mentally envisioning what your garden looks like outdoors. 'Cause I know you don't want to like show off your outdoor area. It might be a little bit too personally, you don't want to expose where you're at and all that. But just hearing the birds chirp in the background and hearing you out there, I just felt like a really peaceful Zen presence and made me happy at that portion of the show. So thank you for showing, or at least the audio of that garden and the video of the cannabis garden. So thank you again for joining us. And next up, we've got the American one.
Jack, as always, thanks for hosting. Good to see the panel. Everyone in chat. I'm the American one. And yeah, I'll just reiterate what Spartan said. Get some beans, pop them into some sort of soil, start them up, and what's the worst that could happen? I mean, even if you like get 20, 10, $20 worth of potting soil of some sort and just put some seeds in and see what happens, you know? Yeah, do it. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Absolutely. I think it's funny because like even if you don't have all the other stuff, like if you just get started, like dip that toe in the water, then it's like everything's going good for the first week, second week, and then like the potting soil starts to run out of a little bit of nutrients. It's like now I need to up pot it. Now I need to figure out like a top dress or something else. So, like it kind of drags you in like a roller coaster. It's
It's
like it
no
starts
question.
off
Like you
easy
said, you
and
need
then
it. I need to go get it. I need to go get it. Now it's a
exactly.
need. It's not a want anymore. It's a need.
Yes. It's like, oh, here's what I need to make this plant happy. Because if that plant is happy, I'm happy. Because I felt that happiness when I saw it green, and now it's not green anymore. So how do I keep it green? I'm Jack Greenstock, keeping it green here with the Growing with My Fellow Growers panel. Y'all know where to find me on Instagram. JackGreenstock47 at gmail.com is my email if you want to get on that list for the Open Source Genetics Alliance, where I currently have the GG4 clone going out at a steady clip, and the hopefully Death Star will be going out here relatively shortly. I've got several of them in the cloner, and the first one looks like it's starting to show roots. And once we get that mothered up, we'll get plenty more cuts. And like I said, this is a can't stop, won't stop. We are coming up on 365 shows with really no incentive other than the little stuff we plug here and there. It's mostly just we fucking love this shit, man. I love this shit. I love hanging with these guys. I love talking about this plant. And if that's not very apparent, I guess I'll just state that out as the obvious or not so obvious. But I love y'all and enjoy this every week. Thank you all. I didn't really keep up with the live chat this week, but I always see awesome familiar faces in there, and that makes me happy. But it also makes me happy to see the new faces, new subscribers, new followers, new listeners on the podcast afterwards as well, and all the people that engage on X and social media. If you make it to this point, comment something on the video. Comment, yo, Jack, I made it to the end because a lot of y'all click out in the first 30 minutes. And for anybody who actually makes it to the end, y'all who are here live, you don't have to actually comment because I could see you like the Jeffro 420 and Operation Annihilation, all these other great folks that are with me live here on YouTube. But if you caught it on a podcast platform or somewhere else afterwards, I appreciate y'all just as much. Cheers, everybody. Peace and love. Catch y'all next week.
Keep growing.